Welcome to Dreams and Thoughts, the podcast where we take a break from the hustle and bustle of life, pour ourselves a beverage of choice, and dive into meaningful conversations about the things that matter most to us. Join us as we explore a wide range of topics, from entertainment and culture to relationships and personal growth, all while sipping on our favorite drinks and sharing our thoughts in a comfortable, relaxed environment. So sit back, relax, let's raise our glasses as we look forward to great episodes of Drinks and Thoughts. Every thought is worth a shot. Drinks and Thoughts. It's fizzy entertainment.
Hello viewers, welcome to Drinks and Thoughts, your favorite podcast where we talk about lifestyle, entertainment, and of course things that matter to you and to us while sipping our favorite beverage. Today, we're going to be talking about something very special and something very interesting. And of course, we have a surprise international guest for you. And so sit back, relax, and we'll be with you guys after the break.
Drinks and Thoughts. Spirited conversations with deep thoughts. We stimulate both minds and palates, mixing drinks and ideas.
All right, today on our program, we shall be talking about pop culture, or better still, popular culture. And on pop culture, we're going to transcend through the TV trends of our recent time, music, and of course, cinema. And on our set today, we are having very interesting people, as usual. We're having our Cameroonian-born Hollywood superstar, Constance Ejima, with us. Hi, Constance.
Hi.
Hello. Welcome to Drinks and Thoughts.
Thank you very much.
I thought you guys could welcome Constance better than that. Super. Yeah. And Constance is here with our regular crew, Denzel, Tatapon, and of course, Ashil Nana. And Denzel,
Sir?
pop culture. What are we going to talk about today?
So today we're going to be looking at the various facets that are involved in pop culture, from dance to music to art to tradition to attires. Basically, everything that a society has, which is a form of culture, that has become popular. I think the word pop, the first time I heard the word pop, I think it came from Michael Jackson, when, the whole trend of the king of pop, but we did not know what that was. And then we got to this popular American channel, E! Entertainment Television, and their slogan is the pop of culture. So I think from that channel, watching it even before understanding what pop culture was, you could see that there's always a celebration of not just cinema, but of film, of dance, of creatives, of tech. So I think popular culture in a nutshell is just the revelation of a lot of things that society has that is now at the forefront. But the difference now, I think, is the fact that it has become mediaized, as opposed to before, which was not very shown as much.
Okay, when they talk about pop music, we thought pop music was a genre of music. Like, as you said, they call Michael Jackson the king of pop. So it's very tricky, being able to transcend between popular music and, it being connotated as pop music, So in Cameroon, for example, is that a kind of music that we call pop music in Cameroon? Oh.
Now, the thing is that popular music or pop music is music which is mainstream, and then there's regular music which is not mainstream. I think right now I'll go with Yaoundé. Pop music in Yaoundé now is Mbole. It's being played in every radio station, every TV station, every bar, every club. But there are other genres of music here which is also being played, but it's not played as much. I think Cameroon does not have popular music right now. I think if we go back 20, 30 years, probably like the Makosas. I think the most popular genre of music that's come out of Cameroon is Makossa. There are other genres we have from we could see the music from the Sahel, the drums, the bottle dance. But I think Makossa is at the base level popular music that we actually have here.
I have a friend who went to Colombia. He's a Cameroonian. He went to visit Colombia and South America, and he said he went to a random village and heard them playing Makossa.
Oh, wow.
So Makossa is popular in the very remote part of Colombia. Yeah, that's how far it's traveled.
Wow, Makossa has been that brand that has always put Cameroon on the map, because even when it tried to be revolutionized, somebody like the late Manu Dibango had to do a genre called Soul Makossa.
Definitely. Tout à fait. Justement, le makossa, en fait, c'est la musique camerounaise qu'on peut taxer de musique populaire, en fait. Parce qu'il faut dire que des personnes comme Manu Dibango, à l'époque, quand il sort le Soul Makossa, justement, c'est lui qui permet à ce que le monde entier puisse savoir c'est quoi le makossa. Et justement, on a eu des personnes qui ont samplé sa musique. Et justement, on va citer Rihanna, on va citer les icônes Michael Jackson. Justement, on peut dire donc au Cameroun, de manière spécifique, le makossa, c'est peut-être sinon la seule musique vraiment populaire. Parce que si on parle de musique populaire ici, on parle d'une musique qui a pu traverser les frontières, qui a touché le plus grand nombre de personnes en réalité. Parce que justement, à l'époque, quand on parlait de musique populaire, je pense que Denzel a si bien dit, la musique populaire est venue un peu de Michael Jackson. C'est à partir de Michael Jackson qu'on a appris ce que c'est que la musique populaire en fait. Et quand on revient au Cameroun, en Afrique de manière générale, à une certaine époque, le makossa était une musique populaire. Parce que le makossa n'était pas que danser ou alors chanter ou alors enjoy au Cameroun. Ça allait au-delà des frontières. On a dansé le makossa au Tchad, on a dansé le makossa en Centrafrique, en Côte d'Ivoire. Les Ivoiriens ne juraient que par le makossa. On a des exemples, par exemple, comme celui des Sans Fantomas, qui était mimé par tous les artistes ivoiriens. Tous essayèrent de copier Sans Fantomas. Et puis, on ne va même pas parler aussi des artistes congolais qui ont copié à l'époque les personnes comme Lotine. Donc, on a des exemples comme ça qui montrent que le makossa, à une certaine époque, était vraiment la musique populaire du Cameroun.
Let me ask Constance. When they said Michael Jackson, for example, is the king of pop, is it that genre of music made him popular, or he made a genre of music popular?
I think it's a little bit of both, isn't it? Because when you think about pop stars, there isn't anybody quite like Michael Jackson today.
Right.
I don't think you can really compare. You know, he was a cultural phenomenon. He was an icon.
Right.
And when you watch old videos of Michael Jackson in concert or going to different countries, people are, out in the audience fainting just at the opportunity to see him, to be in the same stadium as him. I don't think we really have any individual who has that much of an impact musically as Michael Jackson did. So I think he was both somebody who made the music popular, and he also was popular because of him. I think it's kind of a mix of...
Talking about the question of Mr. Bliss, when they say popular culture, it means it is influenced by the mass. So what influenced popular culture? Does it start from the mass to an individual, or an individual to...
I think usually it starts from an individual who then touches people, and people really take to whatever it is that they produce, and then it becomes, for lack of a better word, viral. It's like, and when you think about a virus, it's something that infects somebody, and then it's transmitted. It takes on a life of its own, and you can't really explain why, but somehow it moves people in a certain way. It's really inexplicable, but there's something about it that it just spreads like a virus. It can't be contained.
Talking about pop culture, like, it's a lot that is known about pop music, because music has a way it follows trends. During seasons, there is a particular music that becomes popular, and it becomes a trend in that season. And so, if we want to transcend, from music to cinema, for example, how do we situate the trend of cinema today? Let me first of all ask Tatapong, in the African cinema, African or Cameroonian cinema, what is the trend of cinema? What is pop movies? If I could...
Because I was about to say that it's very easy to identify musically. Yeah. Now, coming to cinema, okay. Yeah. Popular culture is a set of beliefs and practices embodied by a whole social system. Do we have movies that are embodied by our whole society in Cameroon? I don't know.
So we don't have a pop movie. We don't have a pop movie trend in Cameroon.
It's not about the movie being popular or something about the movie that every other movie wants to copy.
Maybe the kind of movie that can become popular, the genre of movie. Parce que moi, je pense que Cameroun, quand même, de manière précise, c'est vraiment difficile quand même de situer le cinéma dans quelque chose de très populaire, de dire que ce genre de cinéma est plus populaire que l'autre. En fait, c'est un peu compliqué. Mais si on regarde quand même dans la globalité, il y a quand même des genres cinématographiques
qui sont assez populaires. Si aujourd'hui, on entre par exemple dans les web-séries, par exemple, je ne sais pas si on peut classer ça dans les genres du cinéma, sinon dans les web-séries.
Le web-série peut être dans le TV shows. On peut classer ça dans le TV shows et pas dans
le cinéma.
Oui, pas dans le cinéma, pas dans le film.
Ok, on ne peut pas le classer dans les cinémas.
Oui.
Okay.
Non, je parle de pop movies.
Most of the fact that we're not
C'est un peu compliqué. C'est un peu compliqué.
about Cameroon.
Yes.
There is this movie genre that is a popular pornography movie genre, and it's classified under pop culture. But is it something we practice here? Do we have porn movies in Cameroon?
We have a very subtle, but the porn industry in Cameroon is not a thing like that, you know. It's very subtle and it's not vulgar out there.
Do we even have it? Pop? Do we even have that in Africa?
Yeah, we have it.
I'm just trying to ask, Denzel, what is the trend of Cameroonian movies of late?
Honestly, I think Cameroonian movies are getting better because a lot of the movies now have a lot of very important themes that they're actually trying to explore.
A trend. What is a trend? What is a common trend? What is a common?
Or is it like Cameroon movies are still scattered?
Yes and no. Yes, let me not get into trouble because I feel like the movies
here on Drinks and Thoughts, we say our
you have
thoughts,
to be,
you know,
okay,
and so just what we think, just so as not getting into any trouble.
And I'll try to use examples so it's a little bit more concrete. I think in Cameroon, the movies are getting better because the themes now have a direction. Like this Potter's Plantation, the movie with Frank Quintus, which talks about Fisherman's Diary, which talks about
the girl child and education.
Exactly, that's a very powerful thing. But then again, I think we have another movie which came out the other day. I think it's called Axelu, which is an action movie, which is really good.
Yeah.
And when she was talking about movies and genres, I wanted to go there because I think in the line of pop culture for cinema, I think action movies are by far the most popular. I think they are the most sought after movies.
Yeah, but I don't think you're answering the question.
That came to me.
Yeah, more on the quality of the film, how the industry is getting better, the qualities are getting better.
When
Now,
you say the
what
industry is
about
getting
our movies can we identify as being pop culture? What is the movie influence?
We don't have that yet. Okay, let me ask Constance. You are a regular face in Hollywood, and so yes,
no,
you are.
I know in Cameroon.
You have been in the industry, and as of now, what is the transition? Let me first of all begin. When was your first? What year was your first Hollywood appearance?
I did my first gig. I believe it was a show called Monk. That was the very first thing I did when I went to Los Angeles almost 20 years ago. When I had like a small guest star role. Yeah, I mean that was it.
Okay, beautiful. One of the reasons we're glad to have you here also is that you have a master's in communication, and you are in a better place not just as an actor in the industry, but in a place of analysis that you can actually help us situate, us on this side and our viewers. What can you say has been the trend, from when you got into the industry in Hollywood, and where you think the Hollywood cinema is right now?
Well, I think when I first started, the types of films that were popular were things like romantic comedies, more independent films. A film like The Matrix came out in 1999, and that was a real line in the sand in terms of films that were using a lot more technology to tell the story. I think of late, especially within the past 5 or so years, you have tentpole films, the big action films, anything Marvel, Avengers, those types of films have become really
superhero movies.
Exactly, all superhero movies. The reason why they are being produced at such a large scale is because they are safe. They're safe for the studios to invest in. The studios know that they will make a return on their investment. They will make their money back. But if you produce independent films, there isn't a mass audience for that. It is cinephiles who watch independent films. It is people who have a sophisticated taste in movies that watch independent films. And, independent films get more attention around award season. And there's a joke in Hollywood. There's only 2 seasons in Hollywood. There's award season and then there's summer because Los Angeles is known for being warm throughout the year. But back to the subject of film, the biggest trend has been the studios just playing it safe and investing in large budget films and films that they can then do sequels, multiple iterations of sequels, the continuation of the same story using the same characters, but the characters in different circumstances doing different things, because they are building an audience. They want to keep that audience, and they don't want to then have to make the effort and invest more marketing dollars into creating a new audience or generating a new interest in a new genre of film. That's why tentpoles have been popular for the past few years. They continue to be popular, and it's become more and more difficult for independent films to get as much marketing dollars and as much visibility as they deserve. To me, real cinema is independent film, and there isn't as much of a space for those.
I'd love to know, is it the studio that determines what the audience want to consume, or is because of the audience demand? Because I noticed in the cinema franchise, there's this repetition of the same story. For example, Cinderella. In Hollywood, we have more than 10 Cinderella stories produced by different studios. The same storyline, different actors, but the same story. Like, I don't know. Is it people want to watch Cinderella in different ways with different characters?
Well, because it's a safe bet. And stories like Cinderella are
immortal,
timeless, they're immortal. And I had the same question myself. We produced this movie 50 years ago. 20 years later, there's another one. In 2022, there's another one. And then in 2055, there'll be a new version. And what occurs to me is that the reason why those things are recycled is because they have to create an upgraded version of that story for a new generation. So the Romeo and Juliet that I saw when I was in high school in 1998, I think Baz Luhrmann's Romeo and Juliet came out then, is going to be different from the Romeo and Juliet that comes out in 2015, from the one that comes out in 2023, because the young people in 2023 have different expectations of what to see on screen. But I'm still attached to the 2009 version because I'm nostalgic about it. That's what was popular in my time. But the reason why they keep recycling those stories is, one, they are evergreen, and two, the technology improves, the storytelling style improves a little bit or changes, and the things that people are consuming, the way that those things look also evolves over time. And so they feel like they have to upgrade it with each new generation. My generation is not going to watch this new version. This is for the young kids today, but I would still watch the one that came out when I was a teenager. So it's safe.
It's safe. So in a nutshell, in the next 5 years, we should anticipate a lot of recycling.
Absolutely. I don't think that's going to end. I think Cinderella is a great example. I mean, and I would say something like Romeo and Juliet, for instance, or Cinderella, or anything that Disney does. We're not going to see that trend change. Why do you think we still study Shakespeare in school? He's been dead 500 years, but he's a part of the canon, and they haven't removed him from the canon because there's something about those particular stories that speak to the human condition.
So let me ask you: when you take a look at the industry, it's like some people sit down and determine where the industry is going to move to. Because you and I seated here, we can say, hey, we're done with Shakespeare. But there's some people who call the shots and they choose to direct, where the industry is going to move to. And I think it's the owners of the studios. Because they have they have the finance, they have the capital, and they can do what they want to do. And we just have to follow. There is, talking about trends, there is the Nigerian film industry, which I've taken a lot of time to study. And I watched the evolution of Nollywood. And if you study the history of Nollywood, you see that Nollywood began with comedy. In the days of Ajasco, Gringori, they were doing comedy. From comedy, they moved to doing a lot of evil movie with evil cults, and also having school cults, in the university. And it started bringing a very bad image to Nigeria. And after they started doing those kind of evil movies, they introduced the church into their movies. Because at first it was suspended because it's like there wasn't hope. Next thing, the Nigerian industry brought in hope. They brought in the church.
Was that change motivated by audience demand?
Because it was painting the image of the country bad. a lot of people used to leave from Cameroon, send their children to the universities in Nigeria. But because of those movies, for example, I know people who said, oh, because of these movies, I can't send, because they know Nigeria, they didn't even see like fiction. Because we saw it, Nollywood is close until you can feel it. So from Cameroon, they're like, I can't send my children to the university in Nigeria, in Calabar or in Lagos, because they are going to join cults in school, or they can be killed. They need to belong to gangs and all whatnot. And so it changed, and it introduced the church that even though these cults exist, or even though there's witchcraft, there is the church that can handle that. And when we were getting comfortable with that, Nollywood started selling us a make-believe luxury. We started watching their movies with red roofs and seeing the actors with luxurious cars, and it started painting Nollywood or Nigeria as a country with a lot of luxury, and we saw those actors and actresses like people who had a lot of money, and the industry was booming, of which those actors, our friends, and they were like, no, this is not what is real, because we knew they had left us behind, So after selling that luxury, Nigeria was fast becoming a touristic site, and its tourism industry also grew, and, the cinema started increasing in the GDP. So when you look at Nigeria as a case study, you will see the evolution of their movies until Nigeria is getting into action movies. So we could see that. I'm using Nigeria as an example to come back to Cameroon industry. And like I asked before, when you see the movies we are acting, yes, we have done the comedy too. The Jean-Michel Kanka, the epochs of the Chop Chop, the Manolab, we've passed through that season of comedy. We got into a little bit of romance, which I don't know if we're out of it. Now we're having, like you said, scattered, subjects in our cinema. The question that I want to ask is, we have a lot of original stories in Cameroon. If you think when you study Cameroon history, you hear Mao resistance, you can talk about Zingraf's first Cameroon. I believe there's a movie that we did on Zingraf some time ago. You can talk about how the white man came to
of Kuvali.
Yeah. We have a lot of stories. Doesn't mean we don't have the kind of mechanism like that in Hollywood. Do we need that kind of mechanism to direct the choice of movies that come from Cameroon? Or better still, the market we're looking for is international. Constance, what do you think are subjects that can sell, that Cameroon cinema can invest in, that can bring our originality, to our big markets like that of Hollywood?
Well, it seems to me that if that is the interest, then you may sacrifice, if the interest is to be more palatable internationally, then you may have to sacrifice, I guess, the demands of the audience that is domestic.
One of the problems we have is our purchase power. Mm-hmm. Our domestic audience don't have a purchase power as of now. So at the same time, we need sustenance in our industry. So what do you think is the route?
I'm not really sure. I think just relying on the authenticity and creativity of the individual artists. In other words, rather than thinking about what would be popular with a Cameroonian audience, maybe it's up to the filmmakers to decide, this is the story that speaks to me personally, and therefore this is what I want to put out there as something that is my own personal brand, and therefore that something that is unique that I can sell. When you think about films coming from Africa and other parts of the world that get visibility and notoriety abroad, they tend to be things that speak to that particular culture, right? So every year the Academy Award opens its doors to submissions from other countries. Every country can submit one film as kind of their contribution to be considered for the Academy Awards. And when you look at those films, what you tend to see are things that are important to that specific culture, things that promote what is unique about them. Sometimes they're risky. Sometimes, you know, they may be things that may not sell as much in that particular country, but things that would appeal internationally. Because again, when you're looking at the international market, like, people want to learn about other countries. They want to learn what's interesting about a place, what's special about it, what are the people doing that they're not doing in the West. That gets people's attention. So it's hard to say, like, when you ask me that question, I tend to think, well, if the Cameroonian audience is interested in something, and whatever is considered popular in Cameroon, for instance, may not be the thing that would appeal to an international audience, because an international audience is looking for something very creative, something unique, something that speaks very uniquely to the culture of that particular place. But that thing may not be of interest to the people themselves, because it's like, well, this is us, we don't care, we take it for granted. But that would be the very thing that would appeal to a wider audience.
Je pense, Bliss, que ce que dit Constance, c'est quelque chose de très intéressant. Aujourd'hui, en fait, tu as fait tout à l'heure une sorte de déroulé. Tu as essayé un peu de faire une analyse par rapport à l'industrie du cinéma au Nigeria. C'est quelque chose de très intéressant. Tu as montré l'évolution, en fait, de ce cinéma-là. Je pense que quand on revient au Cameroun, en fait, c'est la même chose. Parce qu'à l'époque, quand même, tout à l'heure, tu as cité des pionniers dans le domaine. Et moi, je vais te citer encore des personnes comme les Sinji Ninja à l'époque, qui faisaient des films, un peu de comédie. On avait des Jimmy Billon, qui ont fait du cinéma à l'époque. Et puis après, on a évolué un peu avec les Bassek Bakobio, qui sont entrés avec le grand blanc de l'Ambariné noir, celui qui crée les écrans noirs. En fait, on a vu une sorte d'évolution du cinéma camerounais. Alors, pour revenir à qu'est-ce qui peut être populaire, sur quel type de sujet on peut traiter au Cameroun pour que le cinéma camerounais soit populaire. Justement, Constance l'a dit, on ne peut pas aller en dehors de sa culture en réalité. Au Nigeria, ils ont commencé comme ça. Ils ont fait des films avec des storyboards qui parlaient de leur culture, de qui ils sont en fait au Nigeria, de comment le Nigérian lambda vit. En fait, c'est ça qu'ils essayaient un peu de mettre en avant pour que le Nigérian et l'Afrique de manière entière puissent regarder, se retrouver dans ce film-là. Je pense que pour que le cinéma au Cameroun puisse avoir encore ses lettres de noblesse comme on avait à l'époque, parce que ce qui rendait encore le film populaire à l'époque au Cameroun, c'est qu'on avait des salles de cinéma, par exemple, qui permettaient à ce que, une fois qu'un film était sorti, il y avait une salle de cinéma où c'était projeté et les gens pouvaient aller le voir. Ça rendait donc la chose populaire. Aujourd'hui, on a beaucoup de salles de cinéma qui ont fermé, que tout le monde connaît ici, même s'il y en a qui ont ouvert, mais qui n'ont plus le même vent en poupe, parce qu'aujourd'hui, avec la technologie, chacun chez lui peut regarder un film. Mais quand on regarde encore dans l'espace culturel camerounais, dans le cinéma camerounais, pour ceux qui sont encore là, il y en a qui font des films aujourd'hui qui plaisent. Moi, j'ai parlé tout à l'heure des web-séries, mais si on entre même seulement dans les séries qui font sûrement peut-être partie, je n'en connais pas trop, qui font sûrement partie de la gamme des films, on va voir que les séries qui sont populaires chez nous sont des séries qui parlent de nous, de notre quotidien en fait. Donc, une fois qu'on sort de là, je pense que ça va être un peu difficile pour nous de pouvoir avoir des productions cinématographiques qui puissent vendre au point d'être populaires. Si on parle par exemple de notre histoire, de notre culture, on a parlé de Zingraf tout à l'heure, justement, il y a eu des films comme ça, là-dessus, qui parlaient justement de l'histoire du Cameroun, ce que le Camerounais lambda a vécu. Maintenant, cela peut se mettre à la télé et je pense que chaque Camerounais, chaque Africain pourra se retrouver dans ça. Il y a plein d'histoires comme ça. L'Afrique est tellement riche en histoire. Donc, si les cinéastes africains, et de manière particulière les cinéastes camerounais, essaient simplement d'utiliser ce potentiel qu'on a, cette histoire qu'on a là, je pense qu'on aura un cinéma au Cameroun qui sera populaire naturellement parce que les gens vont se retrouver dans l'histoire qui est racontée. Et voilà, pour moi, ce sera quelque chose de...
Drinks and Thoughts. Spirited conversations with deep thoughts. We stimulate both minds and palates, mixing drinks and ideas.
So, Constance, you're not only...
How do you call her? Constance. Oh, you got her in French. Is the French? Is the Cameroon in you?
Fine.
Someone answers called Constance. So that's her name. Someone else called Constance. So
I thought it was the Cameroon.
It works.
so Constance.
Don't worry.
No, but it's good.
You understand?
Yeah.
Je sais pas pourquoi.
I said it's the Cameroon in
Je
you.
sais pas pourquoi. Constance, you're not only an actor, you're also the producer. You're also an award-winning producer. You won an award for Producer of the Year for Ben and I at the African Movie Academy Awards. Is that something you are going to lean into eventually when you step away from acting, or producing is just part-time?
Producing is a necessity. And by the way, I produced Ben and Ara, and I've produced a web series. So I don't have a ton of experience producing. And producing is something that I happened to do by necessity. It wasn't something that I dreamed of doing. But because I had this film that I wanted to make, it was just a necessity for me to produce it, because as an actor in Hollywood, especially as an actor of color, people are not handing us jobs every day.
Right.
And so when you've been struggling and auditioning and not getting parts, at some point you have to sit down and ask yourself, but what will it take? If Hollywood is not noticing me, if producers are not noticing me, how do I then help myself? And so a good friend of mine wrote Ben and Ara, and he invited me to produce it with him and to also star in it with him. We did a crowdfunding campaign, so we raised money for it ourselves. We invested our own money into it. We got our family and friends to contribute money to it. That was our role as producers. We signed on an even more experienced producer to join our team. So there were 3 of us who were responsible for this producing role. Our third producer was responsible for getting us our set. She invited us to come to her state and her town because she had connections there and she had access to a lot of great locations and great resources. So we were able to produce our film for quite cheap. So that was kind of a long-winded way of explaining why it was necessary for us to make this movie. It was our movie. We had to make it ourselves because nobody else was going to do it for us. And it was the same thing for the web series that I contributed to producing. When you look into the past and kind of look at the past trends as well as current trends in terms of actors taking on these other roles in production, what you find is, the 1970s were the heyday of American cinema, where you had people like De Niro and Pacino. They became household names. They started in that era. But what you come to discover is that as they were going up in their career and going up in the industry, they started participating in creating their own films. They started producing their own films because they saw themselves as a brand. They recognized the power of their brand. And they also realized, I want to tell a certain kind of story. And if a studio is not going to help me do it, I will help myself. I will raise the funds and put a team together to make that happen. We're also seeing that trend now where you have people like Issa Rae, and many others who, Issa Rae started on a web series. And if you watch the original version of that web series today, the production quality was terrible. It was so poor. But the reason why that web series was so popular was because you could see its potential. People watched that show and they recognized themselves in it. So it was very original. It was called Awkward Black Girl. And I saw the show and I was like, I'm an awkward Black girl. I can completely relate to this. She started to get noticed. People big up in the industry noticed what she was doing and said, this girl has a really good idea. Let's get behind her and make it happen. And that's how it evolved into Insecure many years later. And Issa Rae now, she's huge. She's very huge. A person like this British actress who's a writer, you start acting and then you write and then you direct and then you produce. You have to wear different hats because honestly, that's the only guarantee that you get to tell the kind of stories you want to tell. Right. Because if you're not being given those roles that highlight your talent in a specific way, then you have to do the work to display yourself in the way that you want to be seen or show what you've got, because you're not being handed scripts that really stretch you in the way that you can go.
So, Constance, what?
No, why not be doing this?
Constance, at least let's on Bliss TV we are always different, so maybe we go with the Constance.
As long as you don't call me Candace, because people fall into that habit. And I don't understand. Constance and Candace are different. They both start with C, but to me, they seem like very different names. But
there's a T and there's a D. So I think it's just because Candace is it's a pop name. So
I don't understand.
It's a pop name. So, you were talking about, trying to tell the kind of stories you want to tell. That's one of the reasons, actors get into producing. What is the kind of story Constance want to actually sell out there or show out there as you, Constance? What are your stories?
So my taste in films, I like independent films. I like art house films. I like art films, which is very, very niche and it's very, very nerdy.
Right.
And I don't see people like.
And it's not popular.
No, not at all. Not at all. So I want to tell those kinds of stories, the things that you would have to really dig to find, like, this is such a strange world. This is such a strange story. You know, what is going on here? I'm attracted to that. I'm not into huge tentpoles, even though, you know, I'll go watch an action film. I love them as much as anybody else.
And also you brought in a lot of adrenaline also in
yes,
Fanta.
Yes,
you know?
but that's not my passion.
Okay.
That's not my love.
It's just your job.
It's just my job.
Je vais te poser une question, Bliss. Est-ce que Constance, toi en tant que producteur, parce que justement c'est ce que tu es aussi, est-ce que quand tu veux produire un film, ce qui t'intéresse, c'est ce que tu auras après avoir produit ce film-là, ou c'est simplement la passion que tu veux mettre en avant?
Like I said, I produce out of necessity. I'm not a producer because I'm passionate about producing.
Okay.
Producing is very hard.
Okay.
You know, first step is raise money. It's hard to get money.
Okay.
It's really hard. I did a crowdfunding campaign for my film Benanara. That was very difficult.
Okay.
And I think my producing partner and I were blessed because we had absolutely no experience. Okay. We were just like children excited about it. And so we went in with a certain level of enthusiasm and abandon. When we were making Benanara, we were on set, on location. We were asking for things we didn't even know that we weren't supposed to ask because we didn't have any limitations. We had not been exposed to the realities of the industry. And that's the reason why I haven't produced another film, because like I've gone through it and I know how hard it is.
Yeah.
Boy,
You do, Constance, you know, producing in Hollywood and producing back in Africa, a low budget movie in Hollywood is a huge super budget movie in Africa, in Cameroon.
Are you sure about that?
I think it depends. Yes, the story.
Because its labor is cheap in Cameroon. In Africa, it's cheaper. Locations are cheaper in Cameroon or say in Africa. So have you thought about producing in Africa?
I've thought about it. I've never done it.
Especially
I don't know what goes into it.
Especially producing in the legendary Cameroon where Tarzan was shot in, of which an episode of the Blacklist was shot in Douala.
Season 2, episode 1, I think.
Yeah.
So,
that's strange because The Blacklist is a New York production, and they're very particular about casting people, especially actors who are based in New York. So as an actress in Los Angeles, I can't be considered for The Blacklist. So I'm surprised that they shot.
They didn't speak Bantu at the opening of the episode.
Oh, okay. So it was a very specific thing. I see. Okay.
There was some war rebel who was selling arms
to
Raymond.
Okay, I'll have to look at that.
You should look at that.
Yeah.
And one thing that is very almost contradictory is what Constance is passionate about is not the roles we've seen her a lot. That even in 24, is you know, it's.
And people talk about 24, but to me, 24 is nothing. I was an extra in 24.
Yes,
you know?
it's everything for us in Cameroon, in our continent. We celebrate that. We celebrate that here. It's everything to us. And talking about 24, let's get into the trend in TV series. During the period of 24, we had the rendezvous on TV to watch an episode every week, and we were left with the suspense. Right now with the VODs, as you begin the first episode, it finishes immediately. Do you think that this the VODs is killing that vibe of that tension or that suspense, you know, with TV series that you have to wait maybe for a week and you're eager and it brings traction? What do you think about this trend of VODs? And
I think it's as in terms of the suspense specifically. Right. I think VOD has, and streamers specifically, has transformed it, because I binge watch shows. I mean, I used to watch TV and wait them. That's stressful for me. I can't wait. But the way that it's changed is now you can watch episode 1 to episode 12, but you have to wait 1 or 2 years to see season 2. No. So it's a different version of that suspense and anticipation, in my opinion. You know, when you think about
just a very unique way of looking at it.
Like Game of Thrones, I binge watch, so I intentionally wait. Right? Everybody was watching Game of Thrones. Yeah. I did not start Game of Thrones until 5 years into it. There were 5 seasons because I needed a lot slow. I needed a lot to develop.
I'm amongst the 5 people who haven't watched.
I've never watched Game of Thrones.
It's okay. Never. It was just an example.
Never.
Yeah, sure we get it.
Yeah. So the streamers have changed the behavior, but I think, you know, depending on how popular that show is, that level of suspense. Yeah. It's still there. It's just a little bit different. I also think that streamers have made things a little challenging because once you get attached to the show, the streamers are looking at data. And so if a lot of people don't like that show could get canceled after 1 or 2 seasons, which is a little bit different from pre-VOD and pre-streamers where, you know, you have a show that could be on air for 20, 22 years and people are still watching it because they're attached to it and they're devoted to it and there's ad dollars being put behind it and that's why it continues to exist. Because there's so much content now, you know, Netflix can cancel a show 1 or 2 seasons and because their argument is there aren't enough numbers. The numbers aren't speaking to us, so we're going to hack it and try something else. So the attention span has shifted a little bit and the studios or the streamers are very cutthroat, very, very cutthroat, and they don't really put the fans into consideration when they're making those decisions. So much so that shows that people are really attached to, they would go in front of Netflix and protest, hey, bring back that show, bring back that show. And Netflix, it falls on deaf ears because to them, it's just business.
Ouais, c'est juste du business. Moi, je pense que c'est juste des stratégies marketing pour faire de l'argent. Parce que quand on parle de l'industrie du cinéma, c'est une industrie qui doit rapporter des devises, en fait. Donc, on ne peut pas faire des choses juste pour les beaux yeux de Bliss parce qu'il aime telle série ou telle série, on va juste mettre ça là pour ses beaux yeux. Moi, je pense que... Non, pas qu'on ne peut rien faire pour toi, mais sauf que quand on entre dans l'industrie, quand on fait du business, c'est pour qu'à la fin, on puisse avoir des retours sur investissement. Rate of return on capital, you know, they need it. You know, that's the reason why they're in the industry. Yeah. If they didn't want the money, you never start something like that. So to me, it's all about marketing, all about business, and that's all.
Now, talking about marketing, like you said, in the pop culture, in our filmmaking, it's not just about representing our culture, but doing something we can sell.
That's it.
Now, in your external view, what do you think Cameroon can sell?
I honestly
What part of our culture do you think can be put into the market in the international view and can be bought?
I do not know.
Okay, in the skin of your of a producer from the US.
Let me put it this way.
And being a little
let me put it this way. The last time Constance was in Cameroon was 7 years ago, and so Constance is back today, and great thing she's doing a masterclass in Boya, an acting masterclass, which is very laudable, and let us, you know, appreciate, you know, her giving back, you know, to a community. You're doing this masterclass. Is it some kind of taking your lab and testing the waters, how deep the industry is like? Let you see what these actors are like here. And maybe Constance can get into something.
Well, now you're putting something on me. That was not my line of thinking at all. In fact, I was asked to do this master class. It didn't even occur to me that I could do something like that or that I should do something like that. And, you know, and Kanyang Kwai, he's a friend of mine.
Very great movie director.
Yeah. So when I said, hey, Kanyang, I'm coming to Cameroon, he's like, okay, first things first, you need to do a class. And I was like, oh boy, now you're putting me to work immediately. And I thought about it and I said, well, you know, sure, why not? And the reason why I was shy to do it was because I honestly didn't want to present myself as somebody who knew everything because I feel like I'm still learning myself.
Of course.
You know,
and we don't mind sharing what you already know.
Yeah, and that was the thing that convinced me to finally say yes to it because I don't want to position myself as somebody who knows everything, but I do have a certain amount of experience. And what takes the pressure off for me in that kind of situation is to say, well, I have X number of credits to my name. I have a certain amount of experience. I've been to drama school. I've taken acting classes. Let me see if I can pull all of that together and basically share what I have learned. So I'm not coming in to say, oh, I'm an expert and I know everything. I know nothing. I'm just sharing with you what little I know.
Wow. we love this very humble part.
Come back to my question.
I don't know.
So you don't know anything about our culture that we can sell, how we can tell our stories to make it like more internationally, like put in the market. What about Cameroon?
I think Constance is not business minded. Are you?
No.
She's more passionate about it.
She's more passionate about it.
I'm more interested in bar.
And so that means, Constance, how available are you for a script from Cameroon?
Well, I get asked that question, and a couple of people have sent me scripts. And I've expressed interest in a couple of projects, but I think where it tends to fall apart is in the production part of it.
Right.
So, okay, we have an interest. We've gotten people attached. Now let's make the movie. Is there funding for it? Can you afford to bring me here? And this is the thing that people think, oh, she's a big Hollywood star. She makes a living from acting. Let me tell you, the year I did 2 jobs, I book an average of 1 acting job per year. And when I'm on a TV show, that is a 1-week shoot. Right? I did a SEAL team in May of 2021.
Another action movie which is not part of
It's a television show. So I did SEAL team in May of 2021, and then I did The Good Doctor in September of 2021. That's 2 weeks. What do you think I'm doing 11 and a half months, 11 and a half months of the year?
Right.
I'm not acting.
Okay.
I have a regular job.
Yeah.
I go to the office.
Okay.
I work on the computer. I'm in meetings. Like I have a regular job. And this is the misconception that people have about actors, and especially in Hollywood. Only 2% of actors in Hollywood make a living from acting.
Okay.
2%.
And I believe those are actors who are also producers.
No. The people you watch when they're the Oscars and the Golden Globes, all those people in that room, they are part of that 2%.
Whoa.
Everybody else has a job, whether it be there's teachers. My producing partner in Ben and Ara, he is a lawyer. There are, people who do, there's nursing, babysitters. I mean, all kinds of jobs. The most popular job for actors is being a waiter or waitress, working in restaurants, in bars, things like that. Because that kind of job offers enough flexibility for actors to go to auditions and try out for jobs. Wow. 99% of my time working as an actor is in auditioning, trying out for things. So you come here and everybody's like, oh my gosh, it's a star. 1 week a year acting. 1 week.
Mais Constance, ce que tu expliques est très intéressant parce que là, tu nous fais des révélations en fait. Parce que nous, quand on regarde, on a une autre impression.
It's an illusion.
Does it? But now, Constance, it's true. You're a truthful somebody, okay? And we like it. You're very humble. You accept that, okay? You're not that star that people are thinking about, but you are. You are, because we Cameroonians, we Africans, when we look at you, we are like, wow.
And we don't have
this is somebody who is representing us. Now, I think that somehow you have to use that advantage, because it's an advantage that you have, and clearly you have an experience. Okay? What is the additional value that you can bring to the Cameroon movie industry as that star that we have? What can you bring? Yes, you're not business minded.
Yeah.
We know that.
Yeah.
Okay. From what?
Please, before she answer, I would like us to know, please. Yes.
Go ahead.
That's not just about the masterclass. She gives in a lot. I had a Zoom call with Constance last year, and that's why I'm a lecturer today, because she told me all this truth about, because I had a Zoom call with her where I was actually crying about the difficulties I was facing. Yes. And she told me a lot of things. I did not know. And I had that conversation. It's Constance. It was a whole Zoom call. It was on WhatsApp. We made it a Zoom thing. I was seated with years.
Wow.
And in addition to that, she sends a lot of things to Cameroonians. She sends me a book last year, Taking the Shots with Kanye.
It's about filmmaking.
Yes. She offered me a book from America. So she is doing a lot. It's not just about reducing the film. Non, ça, c'est pas que sauf que. Mais elle fait beaucoup de choses, elle ne dit pas. Elle va déjà envoyer des cahiers. Et ça fait beaucoup de personnes.
Il est dans le même volet. Il voulait juste tout ce que tu es en train de révéler.
Intéressant.
On n'avait pas cette information. C'est vrai qu'elle aime être derrière. Ça fiche pas.
No, I love this art. I love supporting anybody who has the courage to do it.
Right.
I met Kenya on social media. You know, I started following you on Instagram. That's how I knew about Girl Boss, long before you and I had that Zoom conversation. All it takes is somebody mentioning Cameroon and you have my attention and interested. What is it that you're doing? What kind of stories are you telling? Right. You know, how can I help you in the background? I'm all about that, but it's not my style to like, you know. No, not at all. But in terms of what I'm contributing, I mean, she's told you a little bit.
Mais c'est très intéressant, Constant. Mais moi, mon truc, en fait, c'est quoi? C'est que je me rends compte finalement que tu as beaucoup à offrir aux Camerounais.
Et quelle offre?
Et que tu offres même déjà aux Camerounais, mais sauf que, puisque la masse ne connaît pas ce que tu fais, est-ce que pour toi, tu ne penses pas qu'il est temps, peut-être, je ne sais pas, peut-être rentrer au Cameroun, retour aux sources, pour apporter cette expérience que tu as à beaucoup d'autres Camerounais? Parce que je pense qu'il y a une vraie demande, en fait. Justement, elle le dit si bien, elle est très heureuse de savoir que toi, tu as contribué à son évolution. Mais je pense qu'il y a beaucoup comme Tatapon, qui ont besoin de ce soutien-là, mais qui ne savent même pas qui tu es.
Ou bien que c'est possible.
Oui, que c'est possible. Parce que beaucoup te regardent à la télé et ils ont même peut-être peur de t'approcher. Moi, je t'ai vu quand tu entrais tout à l'heure. Je dis, waouh, au moins je la vois aujourd'hui. J'ai toujours entendu parler de toi. Oui, parce que c'est aussi ça la force du média. Le média transporte quelque chose chez les gens et nous, on reste avec cette image-là. Ah, on l'a vu dans Black Panther. Oh, elle a joué dans Good Doctor. C'est ça le truc, en fait. Mais non, je pense, avec toute l'humilité que tu as, qu'il faudrait quand même que les Camerounais puissent te connaître davantage. Et c'est justement pour laquelle on va dire merci à Bliss TV de t'avoir ici aujourd'hui.
Well, being here now and this trip and you know, talking to different people, different journalists, it's given me the opportunity to set the record straight. So thank you all for asking these questions and bringing this out. And and you bring a fair point. You know, because I have a lot of enthusiasm for this art, and I give what I can when I see somebody who's really trying to accomplish something. I'm always there to support. But I do see your point about figuring out ways to come back here more often, maybe, you know, doing a lot more workshops or maybe joining Bliss TV.
Why not?
And having this gentleman over here help facilitate these types of exchanges.
We're always readily available. Constance, you can call us anytime. And Bliss is going to answer present, especially the crew on Drinks and Thoughts.
Constance, you said something about actors that work and the 2%.
Yes.
Now, you're currently the vice president for SEO.
Yes.
How do you wear the vice president hat versus the movie hat? How do you switch from those two roles and then do your job effectively?
Very trickily.
How does that happen? Like, how do you snap into the boss you are supposed to be versus the actor that you are?
It's really hard. It's really, really hard because I just want to act. That's all I want to do. I want to make TV shows. I want to make movies. I want to do that 100% of my time. But right now, I am spending maybe 50% of my time in the pursuit of art and 50% of my time on my survival job. That's what we call the other job that helps you, helps support you. I pay my home and my car and my food. Like that job takes care of those necessities so that then I have a bit of space to pursue my acting. Because if I was just doing acting, I probably wouldn't be here because I haven't really achieved that level of work that allows me to do it full time. I'm still in pursuit of that. And, I'm still pursuing my dream. I still hope to get my big big break in Hollywood. I want to be a series regular on a show, not just a guest star in one episode here, one episode there. I want to be, a main cast member in these shows. I want to be in big movies. I want to have a big credit. But that hasn't happened yet. And this is the reality I really want to tell people about. It's beautiful for me to be here and to get this interest and everybody being excited to see me. I'm so flattered. I really, really am. And I just feel so blessed to be here, to be honest, and to be getting all this love. But when I go back to America, it's completely different. I have to go to work on Monday.
That's the reason. Maybe that's the reason why. Yeah. Maybe you have to come back here.
No, there is something. Actually, one thing that we should take back and we should re-emphasize is what Constance says. She is constantly and regularly on auditions. So it doesn't mean because you start in some movies, or you played some roles that it's automatic in Hollywood that they're just gonna give you roles because they said no. You still audition. And it's one thing that a lot of our upcoming actors or other actors who think that they are certified actors, should be, especially here in Cameroon, should be able to know that they are not just gonna cast you because you have a pretty face. Or they heard you were in some movie. They should always be the face of auditioning.
And I'll tell you, even that 2% that I mentioned, those people have to audition sometimes. There's a few of them who get handed roles because they have proven themselves. But even they have to audition, right? Because if it's like this 2%er versus that 2%er, there could be 5 or 10 of them who may be good for the job. They'll ask them to put something on tape so that the director can decide, okay, does this person fit into the world of the story? Do they bring a certain kind of energy that maybe this other candidate doesn't have? There's so many things that goes into the decision-making process. So even they can't take it for granted all the time. So big people are auditioning, little people like me are auditioning. We're auditioning all the time. For every booking that you have dozens to hundreds of auditions. If I'm booking 1 or 2 things per year, how many auditions were in front and behind that? Many, many, many.
Wow, beautiful. And Constance didn't have to audition to be on our show.
One thing I find interesting is the fact that people just talk about the fact that you were on Black Panther, but they don't talk about the fact that you also won a SAG award for best, I think, stunt woman. I don't think that gets celebrated a lot. But what I want to ask is, how did the role of playing Black Panther, how did that happen? How did you get the role in that movie?
Oh, that's an interesting story. So when Marvel announced that, I forget what year it was. I think maybe it was 2016, I believe, was the year Marvel did this huge big press conference, and they said, okay, here's what we're going to roll out for the next 10 years. It'll be Avengers 12, the Hulks, but all the movies, they had a huge
superhero movies.
Right. They had a huge library and they had a plan to roll it out. Black Panther was in that list. Everybody got excited because I don't think prior to that there was really a Black person as the superhero.
Right.
So in 2017, they started shooting Black Panther. When it was announced, of course, all of Black Hollywood said, please, I have to get in the room. I have to audition for that. How do I make this happen? I told my reps, my agents and my manager, please, if you hear anything about the casting, make sure that I'm submitted. I did finally get the opportunity to audition for Black Panther for a speaking part. And I'm going to disillusion everyone because I think there's a misconception about the role I played in Black Panther.
Right.
So I go in and I audition for a speaking part. I don't get it. They see me, they show me out, I never hear from them again. And this makes me very disappointed, of course, and I'm very sad, everybody wants to be in it. So a year goes by. And the thing that finally appeased me about not booking that part is that my friend who's from Ivory Coast, his name is Bamba Bamba, he booked the part in Black Panther. In fact, in the beginning of that movie, there's a chase where the Black Panther's chasing these military guys in the truck, and they had kidnapped some women. One of the women that was kidnapped is a Cameroonian actress. Nobody knows that. They only think that I'm.
No, they make up. I know that.
Thank you very much.
We don't know that.
Yeah, I think her name is it Sasha Mofo? I think that's her name. Anyway, so she was in that scene, but this Ivorian friend of mine played the rebel soldier. So when I found out that he got a part, I was excited. I was at peace because I thought, okay, my brother's in it. I'll support him. I'm excited, right? So they film the whole thing. They start sending, pictures, marketing pictures. Get excited. Black Panther's coming out February 2018, and then the trailer comes out. They're promoting it. In October of 2017, I believe, I get a DM in Facebook. Somebody sends me a message. Hi, my name is so-and-so. I'm a casting person. We are casting an untitled Marvel film. We're casting an untitled Marvel film. Can you tell me, where do you live? Are you willing to shave your hair? Like these types of questions. And by the time she finished her line of questioning, I guessed that she was asking about Black Panther. Now, when you start getting DMs on social media, you get suspicious. Is this a scam? Is this real? What is this? And this was what I thought at first. But her questions were so specific that I realized, oh, wait a minute, this is actually serious. So I need to get my reps involved in this conversation. So at the end of that week, she had contacted my reps and set up an audition for me to go to some gym somewhere in my town to audition. I thought it was a bit strange, but I was like, okay. So I show up at this gym and there's a group of women who are also there, and they tell us, you are doing an audition for stunts. And stunts are, in action films, people are jumping off planes, people are doing crazy things in cars. It's not the main actors who do those things. It's very, very athletic. So they have to get professionals who are trained in doing that. And because, you don't want Brad Pitt risking his life. You have to get somebody who knows what he's doing. So Brad Pitt's face is there, but the stunt performer is doing all the hard work. And stunt performers are usually not seen. Their influence is felt because you can see a body doing that, but you don't really see them most of the time. So I go in and I knew nothing about stunts. I have never had an interest in stunts. I am not an athletic person. I have an athletic body. I don't do any sports. So
you're blessed.
So yeah. Yeah. So I show up at this place and they say, here's what we're going to do. We are going to do a choreographed loop. That's what they call it. It's kind of a movement sequence. Right. It's like dance. We're going to do this loop. We're going to show you a few times, and then we want you all to do it. And as you're doing it, we're going to take our phones and we're going to film you. And when we film you, we're going to send this video to the stunt coordinator so that they can decide. And that was how we auditioned for stunts, right? So, and the reason why they did that was in the midst of marketing the opening of Black Panther, and they were in the editing process and they were finalizing the editing process, they watched the film and they realized that big battle scene in the middle of the scene where the border tribe and the Doras and all the tribes were fighting amongst themselves. Yeah. They were using CGI, of course, but they also realized, the number of stunt people we originally had in the scene, it doesn't look big enough. We need it to look like there are thousands of people fighting each other. Right now, it just looks like a few hundred. We need more bodies. And that's why they reshot that scene. And it was in the reshoot of the scene that I now had an opportunity to join in a very roundabout way. Yeah. And it was a very unexpected way because I wanted to have a speaking part. I wanted to be in a scene and, who doesn't want that? Yeah, but that didn't happen. So I got another opportunity in a different way. The reason why I accepted it wasn't because I was enamored by Black Panther. I knew nothing about comics. I didn't follow any comics. My real interest was in working with Ryan Coogler. I was a fan of his. I admired him very much. I think he's a fantastic writer and a great storyteller. And I just loved his work and I wanted to be in his presence. That was my only interest. That was it. That was really it for me. I didn't know anything about, whatever, Black Panther.
And you killed it.
Well, so we did it. The movie comes out and there's a screener for all of the crew. And we went to see this movie and we all sat in the theater. I sat in the theater. I had never read the script because they never gave us a script. I didn't know what the story was about. I sat there and I was like, oh, this is big. This is a very important story. Like, I was so moved, not by the action, but by the context of the story and what Ryan was saying, this connection between Black Americans and Africans, and can we be greater than ourselves? We are a great people. I was so moved by that and really counted myself lucky to have had the opportunity to be a part of that bigger story. As fascinated and as excited and enthusiastic that the general public was about that film, personally, I felt the same because I saw how important it was even at that stage. So that's my Black Panther story. So when people see me today, especially here in Cameroon, and they're like, "Oh, we loved you in Black Panther," they mistake me for Danai Gurira.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yes.
That is the mistake. And I now I'm tired of saying you didn't see me in that movie. I've seen that movie. I have not seen myself. I have not seen myself. There was a trailer that was released early on. I had to pause, play, and find that still of like my profile just to prove to myself that I
when the pictures go out, when the stills go out, and amongst the warriors, the female warriors, and we see you, and so it's
proof that I was in it.
Yeah, and it's difficult to not see you in our minds when the action is going on, and so. And we still celebrate and we're still proud of you.
No, for sure. And, Mr. Bliss, moi, je suis très fier de l'humilité qu'elle a parce que je l'écoute elle est tellement humble que j'ai dit, il faut encore qu'on apprenne pour elle parce que c'est pas quelque chose qu'on a l'habitude de voir chez nous en Afrique. C'est-à-dire que, généralement, les personnes qui ont eu la chance d'avoir cette visibilité vont avoir un langage différent. Ils vont vouloir utiliser ça comme étant, ils vont gonfler la chose, d'accord? Mais là, on écoute quelqu'un qui est sincère, qui nous dit la vérité. Et franchement, pour moi, c'est wonderful.
All right, we're about rounding up the show. Today we were talking about pop culture, popular culture in music, in cinema, and of course on television. Tata Pong, we're about rounding up. What are your last words?
I am happy to be here. I'm speechless. I'm here to look at Seju. I am on the set of Mr. Bliss. Drinks and thought with Seju, that's all. I'm just happy. Yeah. I have nothing to say.
What I'd like to say, thank you so much for coming back to Cameroon after a while. We hope, just like Ashe said, that you come back and you do the whole lot more. I think the platform you have and the international recognition you have could be very beneficial to young filmmakers in Cameroon. And I also think, this particular place, not just because we're here, Bliss Entertainment Television will be a very good partner for you as well. So thank you so much for having and more awards, more movies, and more open doors for you.
Man.
Achille?
Mais moi, je vais dire merci à Constance. C'était un vrai plaisir d'être avec toi aujourd'hui. Merci de nous avoir ouvert ton cœur parce que tu as été tellement vrai que moi, je suis ému. D'accord? Moi, je suis très ému. Et ce que j'ai envie de te dire, Constance, l'Afrique a besoin de toi, le Cameroun a besoin de toi, comme a dit Denzel. Et je pense qu'il y a beaucoup. Nous sommes sur une terre vierge. You are in the virgin land here, where things are still starting. And I think you can be part of that journey. You can take part of that journey because you have a lot to share with the young generation. You have it. Even though you are still thinking that you have to learn more, it's true. But trust me, with the little that you have, it's already great for us here. So please come back.
Thank you very much. Constance, I hope you've been enjoying your stay in Cameroon.
I have. It's been tremendous and overwhelming, but in a great way.
All right. We're about to wrap up this very interesting conversation. One professional question I want to ask Constance before we leave is, Constance, when they say an actor has been cancelled in Hollywood, What does that mean?
It's a bit complicated because it has to do with social media for the most part, and also being politically correct.
Okay.
So if an actor says something or does something that people in the general public, or something that is a little against the status quo, something a bit controversial, people on social media come after them and they say this person has been canceled. Now, I don't know how legitimate that is, but
We say when you cancel, you lose your gigs.
I mean, you lose. Sometimes it can be quite extreme. Sometimes it's mild, where it's like, okay, people stop following you on Twitter, or when people are speaking about you in the general discourse, they don't speak about you positively. On the extreme side of it, you could lose jobs. You could,
Because you've lost your popularity.
You don't get hired because what you're saying is controversial, because what you're saying is counter to what the popular culture thinks is appropriate.
Right.
And that's usually what it is. It's like what people deem appropriate. Cancel culture was not a thing years ago. It's just been a more recent thing. And people are just a lot more sensitive, and I think it has to do with this new generation and them refusing to accept things that in the past people would not really have the courage to speak out against. So on the one hand, you kind of have to give them credit for being determined to knock down anything that they don't think is right. But on the other hand, sometimes it can be quite exaggerated.
Wow, it could be quite exaggerating sometimes. Thanks very much for, sharing your parkour, your journey through till these dates in Hollywood, in filmmaking, and your experience, Before we close the program, Tatapong, our very special, our own very Tatapong Beyela, has a way of doing things and has a way of intriguing our guests, And so Tatapong is just going to do her thing, for your pleasure, whilst we close the program. Beyela?
Thank you, Mr. Bliss. Okay, Constance Juma, we really cannot express how happy we are to have you in our studio, Bliss TV, and more specifically in our show, Drinks and Thoughts. Because here we have to drink to think. So, for every time you feel the heat, like you want to think about something, projects, anything, love, business, and we would love you to do this. Go to your kitchen, you warm your water, take hot water, and you pour into this little beautiful gift from Drinks and Thoughts. Pouring, it has to be hot. And you wait. While waiting, you think about us. Mr. Bliss, Denzel, Sugar Boy, Tatapong Beyela. And while you wait, it reveals. It comes. Voila.
Oh,
voila. And voila. Thank you for coming to our show.
Yes.
It is magic.
Oh my goodness.
Thank you so much.
I've never seen this before.
Yeah.
You
can only have that on Bliss
This
TV.
is the most unique present I have ever received.
Clap, 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 clap.
Dun, 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 dun.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's really hot here.
Yeah.
And when the weather gets cold, it goes back to black.
I will cherish this.
So this is a special magic mug from us to you.
Thank you.
And we're very happy to have you and keep coming back. And we wish you the best in your endeavors. And we know you haven't said anything controversial on Drinks and Thoughts that can get you cancelled.
There's no other influence.
So thank you very much, viewers. And until we meet for another exciting topic on Drinks and Thoughts, it's Fizzy Entertainment on Bliss TV.
On this show, every thought is worth a shot. Drinks and Thoughts. It's Fizzy Entertainment.